Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Playbook Pundits videocast here on SiouxCityJournal.com. My name is Zach James. I'm the sports editor of the Journal. Thank you so much for watching. And coming up in this week's episode, we'll take a little bit of a look at the Class 2A, 1AA, and 8-man playoffs in Iowa, go over what happened last week, especially on the college side, and maybe even talk some cross-country and volleyball coming up in this week's show. But we talk football a lot on this videocast, and that's what we're going to start with, and we're going to talk about the Class 2A local playoff games first. And starting off with Class 2A, we got Garner Hayfield Ventura taking on West Lyon. Garner Hayfield Ventura is 2-6. They got a number 4 seed in Class 2A based on district standing, so they finished 4th in their district, and they'll travel to Inwood, basically a halfway across the state trip, to take on West Lyon in Inwood. The Lions went 6-2 in the regular season, like I mentioned, and they ended their slate with a 50-0 win against Cherokee on Friday night. And they had a couple of losses at the beginning of the season, but they've come on hot, late and strong. They've come on strong. That's what you want to see in a playoff team, and the Wildcats have certainly done that towards the end of the season. I have no doubt they'll beat GHV coming up on Friday night. And now I should explain before we get any further that these seedings, these games on Friday night, whoever wins, it's not a bracketed system into a 1A, an 8 player. It probably will be in 5A, 4A, 3A, which still has a week in the regular season left to go. But whoever wins in those 4 classes on Friday night on the Iowa side, they'll see who has better records, better district seating, better everything, and then they'll reset and give you a fresh new batch of games coming up on Friday night. Now let's continue into the 2A slab of things. Sheldon is a road team this week as they take on Southeast Valley. Southeast Valley winning the district, a very tough district, mind you, with the likes of OABCIG, Spirit Lake, and Etsville Lincoln Central, who, oh, by the way, made the playoffs as well. But Sheldon has to go down to Southeast Valley to face them. The ORABs have losses in the last 2 weeks, and they are the good teams. They lost to Central Lyon George Little Rock 2 weeks ago, and just this past week they lost to Unity Christian. It'll be a tough test for the ORABs, but I think it does give them a little bit of confidence, if you will, that they made the playoffs, that they did go in the top 4 of their district, and they embrace the fact that they now get to go play Southeast Valley in a first-round game here in the playoffs. Central Lyon George Little Rock, we just talked about them. They get to play ELC in the first round. Both teams going 5-3, and the Lions are on a 4-game winning streak as well, beating Sheldon and Okoboji in the last couple weeks. So a good way for the Lions to finish the regular season, go into the playoffs with some good momentum, and they will certainly do that against ELC. Both teams are 5-3, and they both have played challenging schedules. So if there was a game in this Class 2A field that might be the most balanced, it may be either this one or the game that we're going to get help from the Mason City Globe-Gazette on Friday night, as Unity Christian will travel to Clear Lake. Now, that's in north central Iowa, so they'll have to go from Hull to Clear Lake. I think travel will be a little bit of a factor there, but the Knights do make the playoffs under freshman quarterback Braden Bosma, and the Knights will take on the Lions up in Clear Lake. Now, a cool point about the Lions, their head coach is Jared DeVries. He used to play defensive end at Iowa. He was a standout with the Hawkeyes, and then he went on to play in the NFL for a few years, and he likes to be physical. The Lions, I don't know how physical they are, but if the Knights can kind of establish a little bit of physicality, especially with the linemen, I think the Knights have a decent shot at winning this game. It's even on the road, even more than 150 miles away. I think that if the Knights can be a little bit more physical in this game, I can see the Knights coming out with a win here. The other 2A game in the area involves Red Oak at OABCIG. The Falcons are 7-1, taking on a Red Oak team who is under 500. Some of these first-round games, especially in 8 players, and especially on the eastern side of the state, they won't be close. And I think this game falls into that category as well. I can see the Falcons taking care of business early and often, and maybe even leading by 3-4 touchdowns at the half. I think the Falcons need to come out focused. This is the playoffs after all, but I think they can take care of business against Red Oak. In Class 1A, West Monona takes on West Sioux. West Monona is 2-6 on the season, whereas West Sioux is 7-1. The Spartans ended the season with a regular season win, however, against East Sac County, and the Spartans won that game 50-13. In their 2 wins, the Spartans have outscored opponents 89-13. Meanwhile, the Falcons, they've been led by quarterback Dylan Wiggins. He's having another breakout year. I'd expect him to be on the Journal All-Northwest Iowa team, which, by the way, you can see the week of Thanksgiving. We'll have that out there for you the week of Thanksgiving. Just a little bit of an appetizer to your Thanksgiving feast. I'm sure Dylan Wiggins will be there. I'm sure we'll have a couple other Falcons in there. But the Falcons should take care of business here against the Spartans. But the Spartans getting into the playoffs, I think that gives them a little confidence boost going into the basketball and wrestling seasons. And I think they'll be all right in the basketball and wrestling seasons too. So maybe it'll be one of those times where football kind of catapults, makes them kind of sets the pace for the entire academic year. I think this making the playoffs does that for West Monona. Kemper Catholic goes to Hull to face Western Christian. So those of you in Hull, there is a playoff game in town on Friday night. It'll just involve the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack making the playoffs and getting a home game with a 3-5 record, taking on Kemper Catholic, another parochial school. The Wolfpack won 3 out of the last 5 to claim the number 2 seed in their district, despite having a below 500 record. Ridgeview taking on Trainer in Class 1A to round out that slate of games. Raptors senior quarterback Cade Harriman leads the offense with 808 passing yards and 1,010 yards on the ground. Cade's going to have to do that again against Trainer. Trainer is a very, very good team. I see Trainer coming out with the win here, but if the Raptors can get some momentum going early, if Harriman can have some good yards both on the ground and in the air, kind of get Trainer's defense unbalanced a little bit, maybe the Raptors have a shot. We have 3 games in Class A, and all 3 teams are at home. Starting off with Hartley, Melvin, Sanborn. They're 6-2. The Hawks have won 3 out of the last 4 games to claim the number 1 seed. They're 6-2, taking on Tri-Center, who has played a pretty tough schedule too. So even though both records aren't the same, this might be a pretty entertaining game. But I think the Hawks use their home field advantage to advance to the second round in Class A. Woodbury Central gets a home game against AHSTW. The Wildcats are 7-1, while AHSTW is 4-4. The Wildcats have won 3 out of the last 4 games. Over the course of those 4 wins, the Wildcats have allowed a combined 22 points. So their defense, as we saw at the beginning of the season, yes, we gave Dallas Clunder a Siouxland Athlete of the Week early in the season for his offensive accolades, but he mentioned to me that their defense is going to be really good this year, and it's shown throughout the entire season with just losing 1 game. I think they've had 2 shutouts in the last 4 games, if memory serves me correctly. So the Wildcats, I think, will use that, use what they've done in the last 4 games with that defense and catapult themselves into a deep playoff run. Will they get into a deep playoff run like they did a couple years ago? Maybe. I think this team it's just as good as that team a couple years ago. Maybe they make it to the Dome, but it is a tough field in Class A, so we'll see what happens with the Wildcats there. IKM Manning and South O'Brien also rounds out the Class A slate of games. The Wolverines have won 4 of the last 5 to earn the number 2 seed. Parker Struve over the weekend went over the 1,300-yard mark, and he's going to be our Siouxland Athlete of the Week. He had, I think, 354 rushing yards over the weekend, and that's hard to ignore. I mean, it came against Hinton, but I don't care who it's against. Whenever you run 354 yards, that's pretty impressive, and we're going to talk to Parker about that over the weekend and see what he thought about his game and find out why his game meant a little bit more to him coming up later this week. That'll be in Thursday's edition of the Journal. We have 3 games in Class 8 player. Exira EHK coming to Remsen to face Remsen St. Mary's. The Hawks have scored a combined 285 points in the last 5 wins. And their defense has been playing really well too. So the Hawks are clicking right now. They're 8-0. They're the defending state champs. Maybe they go back-to-back, but first they have to take care of Exira EHK, and I think they do so coming up on Friday night. Kingsley Pearson made the playoffs with a 4-4 record, but they had to travel up to Lake Park to face Harris Lake Park, and the Panthers have scored 60-plus points in each of their last 3 wins. So kind of like the Hawks, the Panthers have scored really well, but that 4-4 record going up against Wolves quarterback Tice Gunderson, we'll see what things happen there. I think this will be a competitive game. I think the Panthers' offense will give the Wolves a little bit of a shootout type of scenario, and that's what they have to do to kind of stay in the game with the Wolves. I'm not sure who wins this game. I'd like to say the Wolves because of their home field advantage, but we'll see. It is the playoffs, and the Panthers are certainly capable. They certainly do have the athletes to come away with the road win there. Our final area playoff game on the Iowa side is Newell Fonda at Janesville. And so when I wrote this story, I was on my way home. I spent the weekend out with family, so I kind of had to do some research while I was sitting in the car. And I wondered, what was the farthest drive that an area school had to make? Now, this is toward the end of while I was writing my story, and it just clicked to me, like, Newell and Janesville aren't it's not a hop, a skip, and a jump, let's say. It is halfway across the state. Now, it is kind of a straight shot on Highway 20, but it's a 157-mile drive from Newell to Janesville. Janesville's pretty town, driven by it. Visited Janesville a couple times, driven through Janesville a couple times when I attended Simpson College, when we went up to Wartburg events. Janesville's a nice town, but it's a long drive, so we'll see how the Mustangs can handle that. The Mustangs are 7-1, but so is Janesville, so we'll see how that goes coming up on Friday with the Mustangs. But I think it is interesting that Newell has to drive 157 miles, I would say. Looking at this list, who else has to make a long drive? I would say Garner Hayfield, Ventura, coming up to Inwood. I would say that's a long trip. Rideau coming up to Ida Grove, both on the western side of the state, but not a clear shot there. Unity going to Clear Lake, probably not as far as Newell Fonda has to go to face Janesville, but still, the Knights going up to Clear Lake to play a game, I think that'll be a factor as well. And I don't know how you do that. I think get charter buses, get the guys as comfortable as possible, maybe leave in the morning, get a sack lunch, stop for lunch somewhere, stretch out your legs, and then get ready to go. I think that's the plan you have to do when you have to travel a long game like that, and college kids know how to do that, but this is high school. So high school kids don't normally have to travel 100 plus miles for that matter, or 100, even 150 miles to travel a long way. So I think that's going to be something that we'll have to keep an eye on Friday night, but I think the coaching staffs, the administration will have those kids prepared for that obstacle coming up on Friday night. Football's not the only sport we have in playoff mode. The Nebraska State cross-country meet is this week. South Sioux sent a few runners there. Congrats to the Cardinals. I'll have a story on them later on this week, and I'll have a story on maybe even Jordan Owens of Crofton and Carson Necker of Hartington, because they're really dang good runners as well. Let's see, Iowa State qualifying cross-country is this week. Check your school schedule to see where your school is going. Class 3A and 4A state qualifying is on Wednesday. There is a state qualifying meet, a 3A meet in Lamar's, and I believe 1A and 2A are on Friday, and there is for Class 4A and 3A are all on Wednesday. Class 2A and 1A are all on Thursday. There is a state qualifying meet in Lamar's on Wednesday and one in Holstein on Thursday, hosted by Ridgeview. So we'll see which runners get to state. I know we'll have a ton of runners making it to the state qualifying meet. For those of you who won't, congrats on a great season anyway. I'm a cross-country runner. I didn't play football. I know how hard it is to go through a cross-country season from early August to late October. It is a short season, but it's a grueling season sometimes. But y'all have had to run in really great weather, so you can take that to the bank going into the off season. But for those of you who don't qualify for the state meet, congrats on a great season. Congrats on going through a season. If it's your first season, hopefully we'll see you back out next summer. And cross country is a really cool sport. And I know we haven't done a really, really good job of tackling cross country this season, but it doesn't. Your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I will say that. Volleyball-wise, 1A, Class 1A, and I believe 1A, 2A, and 3A regional volleyball starts tonight. I'll be in Sergeant Bluff, seeing Sergeant Bluff take on Harlan in Class 3A first round, but there are a ton of Class 1A and 2A games as well. Some teams have buys, I believe, in Class 2A. I know Galen Catholic does, because I'm kind of thinking about going to see the Jays on Wednesday. But good luck to all those teams as well. The state tournament's only a week and a half away, I think. So good luck to everybody. We'll see who makes it to the U.S. Cellular Center in Cedar Rapids. I know it's not called that anymore, but I don't know what it's called, but that's what I call it. And we'll see who makes it to the Dome. Meanwhile, at the college level, Morningside took on Briarcliff in football on Saturday, and I was following the game on the way home. Like I said, I spent the weekend at home, had a family obligation, and it did not look pretty. I mean, I listened to Daniel Versteeg for as long as I could, as much as the KMNS stream kind of faded out, but Morningside ended up winning 84-7 over Briarcliff at Memorial Field. And I agree with Barry Poe, who covered the game for the Journal and Sunday's paper. Until Briarcliff can kind of make some momentum, and I know they are. This isn't, Rome wasn't built in a day for Briarcliff. I understand that side of it too, but this is an annual rite of passage for Morningside. It just is. And until Briarcliff, I remember something that Briarcliff athletic director Nick Scrangevitt told me when he was hired late spring 2019. I just started here and I was like, so what's Briarcliff like? We're both new here. Where do you want Briarcliff to be? And he gave me a track analogy, which I thought was a really apropos one. He said that Morningside's on the inside lane. Let's say they're inside lane 4 of most of the sports of the proverbial track. And Briarcliff is in lane 1 or lane 8, maybe even lane 2, lane 7. The football program has been in lane 8 ever since Dennis Wagner was let go by the Chargers. Now, Shane Ledehy isn't going to turn around the Chargers program in one season. That's a big ask, and Nick Scandritt wasn't going to ask him of that. Briarcliff president Rochelle Keck wasn't going to ask Ledehy of that. But at the same time, you can't lose 84-7 to your rival. So I think if the Chargers can take a step back and kind of look themselves in the mirror a little bit, and I know they have a time or two this season, but I think they really, really, really have to look themselves in the mirror this week and maybe realize maybe we do need to change some things, and Coach Ledehy is doing that, but maybe the offseason is where that happens, is maybe that's where the culture changes. That's maybe when the culture changes. It's hard to change a culture throughout the season. So maybe the big challenge for the Chargers is in the offseason is to look within and see what changes really, really need to be made so that the gap can be tightened. Maybe Briarcliff doesn't beat Morningside next year, but maybe they make it close. Maybe they make it within 30. Maybe they make it within 4 possessions. We'll see what happens. But on the Morningside side, I saw a video of Morningside coach Steve Ryan riding the saddle for the first time in celebration of his 200th career win. Congrats to Coach Ryan. Congrats to Congrats to Anthony Sims for surpassing the 3,000-yard mark in his career. Congrats to Joe Dolanchek, Morningside's quarterback, for surpassing 10,000 passing yards. So a bunch of accomplishments for the Mustangs, and to do it against your rival, I'm sure that made it a little bit sweeter as well. Morningside takes on Dordt this week. I think that's a really big game for the Mustangs. I think it's their first true test of the season since losing to Northwestern in the semifinals earlier in the spring. And the defenders are going to come ready to go. That's it. The defenders are going to throw the kitchen sink at the Mustangs. They know that Morningside is prone to making turnovers, and applying pressure will probably do that for the defenders. So I think it'll be a close game. It may come down to the wire. I think Morningside does pull away in the end, but I think that Morningside game here at Elwood Olson Stadium in Sioux City, that's going to be a pretty good game. So if you want to make it out for that for a 1 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, do so. It could be a little bit chilly out, but it's late October. What else do you expect here in late October? Let's see. Want to talk about anything else? I think that'll do it. Make sure to check out SiouxCityJournal.com for all coverage, high school, college, Musketeers. We're going to hit that home heavy this weekend as the Musketeers are retiring Matisse Kivleniks' number, and it's cross-check cancer night Saturday night. So a big weekend for the Musketeers as well, and we're going to cover that throughout the weekend as well. If you have any suggestions, any thoughts, anything you want to say, feel free to email us, and that email address one more time is scjsports@SiouxCityJournal.com. For Visuals Editor Tim Hines, I'm Sports Editor Zach James. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you on Friday night at the 5 p.m. live stream.